What's going on, traders? It's Antoine Farrar back with another trading video with Digital Goatz Academy. It is Sunday, so if you've been tuning into our lives, you know this is our weekly review where we pretty much go over what took place the prior week. I do kind of tap into like what I would do on market forecasts, but I'm not really going to go into that today. And I'm traveling, so I'm really going to keep this light and breezy and just discuss what happened last week. So currently, I'm in Chicago, Illinois right now, man. It's my first time traveling out here, so definitely opportunities what trading brings, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, let's go ahead and get into analyzing the charts. So if you've been following our channel, you know we primarily go over indices or I would say foreign exchange currency pairs that pay out a lot better than other currency pairs. So these are under the categories of indices. In the stock market, they will be considered futures. But if you are tuning in for your first time on this channel, make sure you do me a solid and hit that subscribe button on your way in or on your way out. But let's go ahead and get into the mix. So I always start off with US 30 and I always start off on a weekly time frame. So let's go ahead and get rid of a lot of my markups because currently that's a little bit of a distraction if you haven't, been following like what we've been tracking, right? So last week I did believe that we were going to be buying up around like 46. I think it was like, let me see. 46,300, right? We overall were selling, right? Even though that we know the market is on a higher time frame bullish, we know that we were anticipating the market to correct, right? So the market has basically been still continuing this correction phase, which pushes us back down to 45K, not 45K even. So I did want to see if price would try to push down. A little bit more, but it didn't do that last week. Well, this is where we closed at. So we closed at 45, like 790. And then the low that we made for Friday was 45, 349. Now remember, we were looking at 45K on the dot, and the reason why, and possibly a little bit lower. And the reason that we were looking at that is if you look on a higher time frame, if you look on the monthly, where we broke out of last year, that was the previous high. So our anticipation was to say that, okay, just looking at technical analysis and market structure, if price is going to break out on the buy side, right? Especially on the higher time frame, we should expect it to do what? We should expect it to come back to a previous high that is trying to test. Now, when we're looking at it on like the monthly, it's easier to assume like I hope y'all can follow my cursor because I don't want to bring up my markups because it's gonna like ruin what I'm trying to show. So if we're looking back from January 2022, right? You can see that price dropped down slightly and then broke up out of it. Last year is where we actually came back to test that area, right? Now, there's a lot more traffic in the market. There's a lot more traders in the market. So, what it looks like is that price is doing it much sooner than taking like a long time to do it. But as you can see, this was the recent high. Now, it didn't come all the way into it. Like these are probably like the better moves you want to see when you're trading like to the T, testing like the high or the low and continuing that direction. So you can see it did a wick, but we're on the higher time frame, so we should expect price to continue in this direction, which it did last year, right? So we tested this high from 2022. Last year was 2025. So it took 3 years in order for this market to test this the 2022's high. So we broke out of um 44K or well, yeah, 45K. We broke out of 45K last year after pushing down. So remember, tariffs is actually what brought us down. That's what brought the market down to even test the high of 2022. We broke out of that, and what we're looking at currently right now is that the market is testing the high of 2025, right? And it's doing it from it only took like what, another year to not even a full year, like a couple of months to actually test that high. No, a year because February to February. So it took a year for the market to one push up but also come back down to test. We haven't hit 45K or 44K exactly where we were trying to target, but we could see the turnaround because how price action works on a higher time frame is a lot more precise than it is how we're seeing it on a smaller time frame, where you see a high price could push down lower, or go even lower to a previous high that you weren't paying attention to. But this is the higher time frame, and as you can see, we use information based off the past, right? So this is Black Bull Markets. I can pull up another broker, but I'd rather not because this is the one that's close suited to the current broker we use to trade. But this is the broker that we use to analyze the charts. I sometimes slip to Orlando, but this is as far as the information is showing you is all the way back to 2020, right? So I don't really care for that other information. If I need, I'll go to Orlando. But what I'm trying to display right here is that look at the sequence. Price pushed down, broke out of this area, testing this high with a wick. It was a wick test. So it was like wick to wick. But as you can see, it really did it come to the body? As you can see, like the cursor's not like lined up with the body exact. Now that may differ based off of brokers. So what I'm trying to depict is that it doesn't have to be like precise, like on the needle. You know what I'm saying? So this could be where price is starting to buy back up. I actually think that, to be honest, this is where price could buy back up because um, I felt like if we were going to reach 45K, we would have done that Friday. But we are super close. The fact that the market got bullish at the end of Friday, those are signs that we're definitely looking for when we see how the market is going to react going into Sunday. So it got bullish towards the end of Friday. I think that's going to continue this week. I haven't seen if we got any major news. Now, the one thing that I was looking at is that I think that the interest rate decision pretty much is the catalyst that brought down the market and is now going to push it back up. So let's just see what happened last week on a smaller time frame, right? Let's scale in. Bear with me. I got a lot of, markups left. So where is Sunday? Sunday's right here. So I remember Sunday getting bullish and Sunday got extremely bullish, but all Sunday did was push us back up to the 9:45 candle from last Wednesday. No, the previous Wednesday. So it pushed us up back to the 45, I mean the 9:45 candle. Not to mention there was a gap here. So if you're ignoring the whole 9:45 candle concept, this is what everybody could see because everybody's not tracking like us utilizing that. You can see this gap. It's still played within this gap. And those are things that we mentioned that the market, until it pushes away, it can play inside that gap as many times as it wants, or on top of it, or, test it again until it truly pushes away. To me, this is the push away. So the next time we meet, price should blow through this. I was thinking that we were going to get that buy zone because of how the market was reacting last week. I thought we were creating some form of structure here, but clearly that was manipulation and it just took everybody out like what we originally intended. Remember, we were selling from all the way up here. Our expectation was the market to come back, but after it started pushing up here, I was like, well, I guess it is trying to create support. And it said, no, I'm not. Straight fuck you last week. You know what I'm saying? So I wouldn't say that. I know there were a lot of traders in my community on the selling side, which is good for them. But since we're heading into Q2, I definitely think that we're in prep for buy opportunities. There's some big wigs out there connected to banks that are talking about that buy opportunities are coming back within the stock market. So if we start seeing it towards the end of the month, that's definitely a green flag right there. That's indicating that we are going to see some type of bullish momentum. And I really think that the interest rate decision with Jerome Powell this past Wednesday was pretty much the excuse we needed for the market to get pushed down back to this gap. What's important is that not only what we were looking at was price to come back to this area because it's a previous high, but it's a major gap. This is where the market gapped in October of last year. So the fact that it gapped there last year and price come, what do we know about gaps, especially when it's on like major time frames? or extremely high time frames, it's going to want to test that. We already saw how price came back up last week, test the gap that it made from like 2 Sundays ago just to push the market back down. And here we are now. I think that this is the gap that's going to do what? Push the market back up. I definitely think that we're going to start seeing buyers start show their hands. Is there room for the market to start pushing down more? Yeah, that was our general thought, but we'll have to cross that bridge when we get there. So like I said, I don't want to over anticipate anything. I just want to see what the technicals show us. But these are things that we utilized last year. So I mean, it's still relevant. Using gaps is still relevant. You just can't, besides like following the trend, you just can't predict like when the market is going to decide to test that gap. I had no idea the market would have tried to test the gap last week, but that's what it did, and that was the correction that it need in order to bring the market down. Now let's see how the market is going to react today. So I think that bulls are going to start showing their hands very soon. So we'll see. But if price is getting dragged down a lot further, that was kind of within our original analysis. And again, the lowest point that I would be thinking would be like 40K on a dot, possibly. We got support down here. So 43K. Like we have a dip down here, so I can see price trying to target that to create some support. But we'll see. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't want to like overanalyze. The only thing I want to stick to is that we're at the high of last year. So let's see if buyers are starting to peek their head. But that's what we're looking for. We're looking for buyers because even though, you know what I'm saying, I got caught with my pants down. I still was analyzing like these are the things that helped me recover a lot of my losses last year, like having my markup still and still like anticipating. Sometimes we're not sometimes your analysis is wrong. I mean, it's right, but you're just early. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times, to be honest, yo. So exercising patience, that's just what it is. But, it's not nothing that we haven't seen before. But the fact that we're back at the gap from last year, I definitely am looking to see if buyers are going to present themselves coming into the market open today. So NASDAQ, same thing here. We pushed down low. All those areas were sell zones, but price has yet to really truly break out of anywhere. I mean, yes, there have been a lot more bearish momentum, but it hasn't really broken out of anywhere. Same thing with NASDAQ. NASDAQ is back at October of last year's support. So the fact that we're back here at support for the third time, I think the support is going to remain strong, especially since how the market reacted on Friday. Let's scale in. Same thing, NASDAQ created a created a candle to push the market up. So it was bullish up until Wednesday. So basically, the interest rate decision brought the market down. And once you had the decision, I think, what was it? Well, no, the market told you ahead of time. To be honest, the market told us ahead of time what it was trying to do, and then by the time it went to the interest rate decision, it just brought the market, it just continued the trend down. So, as far as the technicals, it definitely told us what it was trying to do. Yeah, we just have to see if price is trying to continue pushing down, or we're gonna actually respect this support. Where are we at? So yeah, it pushed up. Which, that this was a buy opportunity initially, and then, Wednesday is where it sold off. So we did take advantage of the buy, make no mistake. You know what I'm saying? We just weren't really responding to the sell like we should have, you know what I'm saying, to take advantage of that. So the buy was short, the sell was longer, but we are back at a high level of support. So let's just see how the market reacts going into Sunday today. Which if I see any, like I said, if I see any signs of bulls in the market, I'm gonna react to that. But based off the trend has been pushing down. The only thing is that we're at the bottom of the range. When you look at it on a higher time frame, we're at the bottom of the range. So since we're at the bottom of the range, we have to see if price is breaking out or reversing from that area because I really think that this whole move was just a correction to push the market up. I've definitely seen patterns like this within indices and they'll jumbo up like this and then bring the strongest bull candle on the opposite side. Matter of fact, US 30 did do that going into 50K, but there was another time that it did it on like one of these time, like it was on a smaller time frame, but the visuals was pretty much the same. So I am looking at price is probably gonna bust out a bull candle that is super strong. We may have one more push down, but after that, like I said, I'm thinking we're gonna get a major bull candle, and then that's when because interest rate cuts are priced in the market. The market cannot cut if it's not going up, if that makes sense. So if it's not continuously, pushing high, there's no reason to cut. Every time we get like a report, it'll be unchanged data or yeah, it would be like unchanged data and stuff. So if it's going down, then and if it's going down at a rapid pace, then that's when the Federal Reserve will induce rate hikes. But it's just been stagnant. It's just been moving sideways. So what is sideways in the market, as we know as a consolidation, which is another form of a correction outside of a pullback, right? So I'm thinking the same thing with Nasdaq. S&P, we're at the bottom two of that range of that support structure that was made. Again, all this, we're back at October. So October is definitely a major move in the market, whether it's bearish or whether it's bullish. So with it being like a major month in the market where the market normally starts reacting like very aggressively, the fact that we're back here to me screams that okay, us targeting October, are we basically trying to establish this as support? Because if you look at S&P, NASDAQ, US 30, all of them are back to the area where they shot up from in October of last year. And of course, we tested it again in November, but here we are now. So the likelihood because of the momentum would make you believe that what price is probably breaking down to the downside. And I would say that would be more likely for S&P than like US 30 or NASDAQ because as you can see, this is the high from last year. But S&P doesn't necessarily have to test the high that if you look at its history, hell, this is the first time we really tested the high, which was last year. And this was 2021's high, you know what I'm saying? So even then it was a shallow, it was like wick to wick. So S&P, when you look at it historically, is not very known for having that precise or I'm gonna test the high and move back up. Like look at this. I mean, I'm sure this is data because of COVID, but look, this was a high, never came back down, never came like close within that window. So S&P may be the oddball that says, yeah, I don't really test that far back into the previous high in order to continue the trend. So if S&P is good where it's at, I mean, we're not close to this high, but maybe it's like respecting this high right here. So just looking at that, I'm thinking that, well, like I said, we'll have to wait and see. But that, like I said, based off of S&P's history, it's not showing signs that it consistently needs to test the most recent high to continue its trend. Even when you look at moves over here, April all the way up into June. I mean, this is on the weekly, so we want to look at monthly. Yeah. Yeah. Not really known historically, not, I mean, I don't even think there's a wick there. Is there a wick there? Not nothing to scoff about. So this was this high in 2020, and we didn't come back up to that level. You see, like there's like a space between it. So, like I don't know if S&P will try to, but its window could be big where it says, yo, this is far enough. And then if the market is trying to get brought down here later on, like in the next 2, 3 years, there's a possibility. Um, but I doubt it, man. When you look at the entirety of indices, even though we have these reactions where the market is being brought down, you can see that the overall trend is up. You know what I'm saying? Like on the monthly time frame. So that's what I'm looking at. I'll adjust fire as we need to, based off of how price reacts when it opens up. But like I said, I am waiting for buyers to present themselves. So the fact that price pushed down to these levels, and that was the sell that we was actually initially looking for. Yeah, I'm confident that price pushed down to the area where we should start seeing support being made. So don't be greedy, you know what I'm saying? Don't have FOMO, like just be patient because we're heading into Q2. You know, next month is the start of Q2, which again, what we saw last year, what we've been seeing historically brings more opportunities in the market, especially trend wise. So start looking. I know things like gold have been selling off. I know cryptocurrency is trying to accumulate its orders to build that momentum it needs to push back up, which I think that it will. I think there's a lot of opportunity within this market to win this year, but obviously the defining factor, or I wouldn't say the defining factor, there is like a wrench thrown in there with the war that's going on in the Middle East. So like just pay attention like to what the technicals are showing you, like still respond to each market session, trade the appropriate market session, and I think everybody be fine. But yeah, I really think that we're in preparation for a liftoff. But that's all I got, traders. I was gonna talk about crypto, but like I said, since I'm traveling, I wanted to keep this short. For my group, I'll obviously drop anything related to the charts later on. For YouTube, definitely catch me on our next video, which will be Tuesday at 5 p.m. Y'all have the recording, but we will start doing lives for those sessions so that YouTube can start catching them too here and there outside of my own personal organization. But like I said, that's all I got. Have a successful week, traders, man. I'll see you on the next video with Digital Goats Academy. I'm Antoine Farrar, as always, signing off. Peace.